On the evening of the 15th of July, a bolt of lightning came out of a cloud that was not raining and hit the ground in the timber outside Twickenham, Oregon. Understand what that actually is. Roughly 30,000 amps delivered in a few millionths of a second through a channel of air heated to around 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, about 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun, into a forest floor that had not seen useful rain in weeks. It was not alone. That storm and the ones behind it threw thousands of strikes across the Cascade Range and east over Oregon and Washington that night and put down almost no rain at all. By the next morning, NASA satellites were picking up new fires across central and eastern Oregon. Within 48 hours, the National Interagency Fire Center was counting 17 new large fires in the Northwest, enough to make this the most active fire region in the country, a title it has not given up since. The cluster that started outside Twickenham merged and grew and is now the Roe Creek Complex, 366,000 acres. That is the story you have been told, and it is true. It is also incomplete, because some of the lightning that hit the ground on the 15th and 16th of July has still not started its fire. Not because it missed, because the fire it started is underground, smoldering in root systems and packed forest floor, showing nothing to a helicopter, waiting on the weather to give it permission. Firefighters call those holdovers, sleepers, and with thunderstorms pushing back into the west this week, they are why I wanted to talk to you tonight. I'm Walter. Nobody sponsors this channel. No brands, no partnerships, no gear links. Nobody pays me to tell you about the weather. Everything here traces to the National Interagency Fire Center, the National Weather Service, NASA satellite observation, and the published research on lightning ignition. Where I'm not certain, I'll tell you. Start with the storm, because a dry thunderstorm is not just a storm that turned out stingy. It is a specific machine built to do one job badly. In very dry air, the base of the cloud sits high, 12,000 feet up. Rain does fall out of it. It never gets here. It evaporates on the way down through all that dry air. And if you have ever watched a storm on the horizon, trailing gray streaks that stop short of the ground, you have seen it happen. Forecasters call those streaks virga. The lightning does not evaporate. Lightning comes all the way down, and so does the wind, because that evaporating rain chills the air around it and drops it as a downdraft that hits the surface and spreads out in gusts. So run the inventory on what actually arrives. The ignition source? Yes. The wind to push it? Yes. The water to stop it? Still up in the cloud. That is why one dry thunderstorm can light dozens of fires across 2 states in an evening and bury every initial attack crew in the region before breakfast. Now the second mechanism, and this one is stranger. When lightning hits a tree or the forest floor, it does not always give you a flame. Often it drives heat down into the duff, the compressed layer of needles, leaves, bark, and half-rotted wood sitting on the soil, or into a root system, or the base of a dead standing snag. Down there it is packed tight and there is not much oxygen, so the fire does not flare. It smolders, quietly, for days. In the research literature, it has been documented at weeks and occasionally longer. Fire scientists measure the gap between the strike and the moment anybody notices, and they call it holdover time. Most lightning fires turn up inside a day. A real minority do not. Those are the ones that keep fire managers awake. Then the weather shifts. Humidity falls, the wind comes up and lines itself up with the terrain, the sun works the ground a little harder, and the smoldering finally reaches fuel it can run with. What was nothing on Tuesday is a smoke column on Friday. It is why forecast discussions across the West keep flagging holdover potential for days after a lightning event. and why crews walk grids around known strike locations long after the storm has gone. Look at what one July evening built. Roe Creek began as separate lightning fires in Wheeler County and merged into a single incident. And when fires merge, containment does not average out. It collapses because you have inherited far more perimeter and not one extra foot of line. In Washington, the Kaiser Canyon fire was ignited by lightning on the 16th of July on the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation near Nespelem in Okanogan County. It is now above 138,000 acres with 47 structures lost, and federal assistance funding was authorized within a day of ignition, which tells you how fast it outran everything local. Beyond the buildings, it burned across ground that carries deep meaning for the Colville tribes. There is no containment percentage for that and no replacement, and I won't dress it up further. Nationally, the situation report published yesterday holds the country at preparedness level 5, the top of the scale, meaning crews and aircraft go by national priority rather than to whoever asks first. 94 large fires uncontained, more than 30,000 people assigned. 6.3 million acres burned so far this year, 157% of the 10-year average. And here is where the two mechanisms meet, because the storms come back this week. The Weather Prediction Center has troughing setting up along the west coast and into the Great Basin by midweek, pulling monsoonal moisture north and increasing the coverage of showers and thunderstorms. The Spokane Forecast Office carries a 10 to 20% thunderstorm chance for northeast Washington and North Idaho on Thursday, and states plainly that very little rain is expected. Federal predictive services flag isolated storms, some wet, some dry, from the eastern Sierra across the Great Basin to the western slope of the Rockies. Fuels across the inland Northwest are described as at or near record dry for the date. That cuts both ways, honestly. Real wetting rain would be the first meaningful help this region has had in weeks. Storms that deliver lightning without wetting rain do the opposite, onto a landscape with nothing left to resist with. Which one we get is not knowable with confidence 3 days out, and I would be careful with anyone who tells you it is. So what do you do this week? If you live in or near wildland in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, Idaho, Montana, northern Nevada, or western Colorado, register tonight for your county's emergency alert system. That is the fastest way you will learn something has started near you, and in country this dry, the gap between ignition and a go order can be very short. Know the level system. 1 is get ready, 2 is be set to leave on short notice, 3 is go now. Keep the tank above half and put a bag by the door with medications, documents, and enough for 72 hours. If you spend time on public land, understand this. You are the most controllable variable in the entire situation. Nobody can stop the lightning. Everybody can stop the other kind. Much of the West is under a burn ban right now, including a statewide outdoor ban in Washington. Dragging trailer chains throw sparks. Hot exhaust over cured grass starts fires. So do chainsaws with no spark arrestor. Every human start pulls a crew off a fire that is already burning, and there are no spare crews. If you are out after a storm and see smoke where there should be none, one thin column off a ridge, no flame showing, that is a holdover on the day it wakes up. Report it. And for anything affecting your safety, go to your local National Weather Service office, your county emergency management, and NOAA Weather Radio. They issue the warnings. I only report on them. Now, I want to leave you with something, and it is not a statistic. You already know what a holdover is. You have made one. Anybody who has ever camped has had the fire they were sure was dead. You poured the water on. You watched it stop smoking. You went to bed satisfied. And at noon the next day, with the sun on it and a bit of a breeze, there it was again, a thread of smoke rising out of ash you would have sworn was cold. from something down in there that had been alive the whole time and simply had no reason to show itself yet. That is the whole science. That is all a holdover fire is. The only difference is scale and depth and the fact that nobody is standing there watching. So when you hear that this season began with a storm on the 15th of July, hold that a little loosely. Storms have end times. Fire does not work to our calendar and never has. Somewhere out under the deadfall tonight, there is more of that July still down in the ground. Warm, patient, waiting on a Thursday afternoon that suits it. Not much of it, but not none. This is a developing situation and it changes fast. Those thunderstorm chances for Thursday will firm up one way or the other over the next couple of days, and I'll come back with an update as soon as we know whether the West is getting rain or getting lightning. Subscribe and turn notifications on if you want that when it lands. To the crews walking grids in the dark this week, looking for smoke that hasn't shown up yet, that is invisible, thankless work, and it is why a lot of these fires never make it onto a map at all. To the families still out of their homes across Oregon and Washington tonight, and to the communities living under this smoke for a 5th straight week, you are the reason this channel keeps covering it. Fire keeps its own clock. Keep an eye on yours. Look out for the people around you, and I'll see you when the storms come through.